be joining us. Very excited to be part of this event. I think that the focus that you have and the agenda that I've seen is just tremendous. What I'm going to be doing here is presenting shortly just some of the trends we're seeing and the roadmap, and so you get some insight on some of the focus that we are going to have at the global entity over the next year. And we, as always, what we do globally is part of how we operate with chapters, and you all have the ability to participate in all of the activities that I'm going to be outlining. So Claudius did a pretty good job of providing some stats on the Cloud Security Alliance, and I'm going to make sure you have my presentation available if you want to use any of these slides. And I have a lot of links to different areas, so don't worry about not being able to get that. So I'll make sure that Claudius and the chapter team have all of this available. But we are continuing to grow quite a bit, and across the board in terms of the participation and the partnerships around the world, and our focus on research, organizational certification, individual user certification, education are things that we have been doing from the beginning. And we're now entering our 14th year. That's pretty exciting that we've made it this far. And when we started Cloud Security Alliance all those years ago, there was just a few organizations that were using cloud more as a prototype or a pilot, and there were a lot of people who thought this wasn't really going to go anywhere. And really, it's very interesting to see how things have changed as we enter our 14th year. And cloud is the default IT system. It's, if you're any type of a new organization, and even very large organizations that have been around for quite a while, cloud is what you look at first for your IT systems. And not only that, that cloud as a foundation to help you leverage as a leverage point for securing IoT, industrial control systems, remote systems, mobile systems. It's not just about securing the cloud, but it's, as it always has been, it's about using the cloud to secure everything else. And if you look at the industry, and I've been able to be at the RSA conference and Black Hat this year in person, which are two of the largest cybersecurity conferences. If you walk the exhibit floor, it was absolutely focused on cloud and cloud security, cloud native, all those different areas. So really our mission, and it's a shared mission between what we're doing globally and you at the chapter, is really to be at the very heart of cybersecurity now. Without cloud, you just simply cannot secure the rest of the technology ecosystem that's out there. So before I get into some of our specific research and roadmap areas, I thought I would just share a little bit from my interviews with enterprise chief information security officers, ones that operate organizations that tend to be more global in nature. And what I asked them, what are their concerns? What would you like me to tell the cloud providers or others? And here I think is a pretty good list of a lot of those key issues. Shared responsibility is one that is always a challenge. We all understand that we need to do that. We don't outsource the responsibility, but having very good communications to understand how you make that split between the tenant and the cloud provider, and then maybe the SaaS organizations that reside on that as well. A lot of the challenges between how you operate globally and then understanding that you have regional concerns, you've got maybe requirements to have the information stored within a specific country. We're seeing this sovereign cloud. I've seen and talked to a few cloud providers that have a cloud that will only operate within a specific country, and they'll work with a local partner to share the administrative tasks, the key management, things like that. So that's a big challenge. Compliance related to all of this above, showing that compliance is a huge priority. A lot of it becomes around the data, and you probably, if you follow the trends, you've probably seen this new category, data security posture management in the cloud. And I think you're going to see a lot more of those things, tracking down where information is and then having very good strategies for managing it. Tech trends, things are moving so quickly that ends up being something that's really important for organizations to make sure that there's just not people that have 10 years of experience in Kubernetes and DevSecOps and understanding the cloud serverless functions, things like that, but they become vital parts of the technology roadmap of organizations. So staying very current is important. And I'll talk a little bit more about cloud threats in the next slide, about what we see as the concerns today. But forward-looking enterprise CISOs, they are concerned about things that might be more of a cloud provider responsibility, like cloud hopping, where a malicious actor is able to penetrate a cloud provider and move laterally to different cloud tenants. And that's a good argument for why we really got to roll out zero trust, which is another area I'm going to talk about. Scalability, how we automate, and the last bullet there is having a strong workforce, which is a real challenge. But even with a good workforce, they're not going to be able to keep up if we don't do a much better job at figuring out how we can automate more components of our cybersecurity and our cloud security journey. So this slide may be a little bit small for you to read. It's got a lot of type on it, and it's got a link for you to read more, but a lot of you are probably familiar with our top threats research. We update it roughly every other year to look at what are the biggest challenges, what are the threats to cloud systems you need to be prepared for. And we also, with the report, we link it to the controls that you can implement to make sure that you are mitigating these issues. The big change between this threat report and previous years is that all 11 of our top threats are tenant responsibilities, customer responsibilities, and actually some of the challenges that we had listed as the cloud service provider issues, those actually fell out of the top 11. And so things that you would probably suspect. So the identity management area is so critical, and that's where you see so many of the credential thefts and phishing attacks, things like that. The APIs and software supply chain, you hear a lot about that. But a lot of the basics that you would think about, finding the vulnerabilities, doing the right patching, having the right architecture, all those sorts of things. And so there's a lot here that it may make you feel bad on this side, but these all seem like they are problems that we can address with what we have available to us. So I encourage you to go read further on the latest top threats report and do more of a deep dive in what's going on. So, our research is getting more and more recognition for what we are able to do, and for our position is to try to be, we want to help you with the challenges you have today, and we have research and we have training for that, but we also want to have that forward-looking view so you can see what are the challenges that I need to be prepared for in the years ahead. And I'm going to talk more about zero trust in the next few slides. It's a major area of focus, but I would just point out for some of these, if you're not familiar, so our most widely downloaded research artifact by far is the Cloud Controls Matrix. This is our controls framework mapped to other very popular standards. And then it's also something that is heavily standardized upon and used all around the world. I would venture to say that based on our download statistics, every one of the Global 2000 companies worldwide have downloaded this multiple times. So that's the most popular. Point out a few different things. I just mentioned top threats. Our quantum working group, which we've been working on this for about 5 years, we recently announced a Y2Q, an awareness initiative, where we believe that by 2030, this is when you're going to see quantum supremacy to the point that it's going to challenge and create risk to our incumbent encryption systems that we use to protect personal information, financial transactions, all those different areas. And so there are things that we can do now in terms of implementing some quantum, but also understanding how we need to protect data right now that has long-term value. So if you have information that is going to be valuable 10 years from now, and you have it publicly available, even if it's using state-of-the-art encryption today, you are at risk, and you've probably already had that information exposed, or it will be exposed. So definitely start following quantum. On the bottom left, we have something called the Global Security Database, which is a new project we released this year. And our viewpoint is that vulnerability disclosures and the amount of vulnerabilities that actually exist in the world are two different things, and that the amount of vulnerabilities we are aware of and the amount of technology we are using is a wider and wider gulf. And we believe that a big problem is our traditional way that we taxonomize and identify vulnerabilities. So the MITRE CVE program, you're probably all familiar with. It's the standard. It's been around for about 23 years. It's funded through contract with the Department of Homeland Security in the United States. This is a very manual, curated process for how CVEs are initiated and communicated. And they've done a really good job over the years, but we feel like we need to augment that with a more on-demand vulnerability identifier system. And so we've got people that include former CVE board members that have gotten together to develop this and work on the best practices and the technology around issuing vulnerability IDs on demand. And we hope we're able to help our vulnerability knowledge catch up with what's actually out there. So this is a very important project, and obviously we focus a lot on cloud, but it's actually applicable to any sort of technology vulnerability. So zero trust, I want to be talking a little bit about this, more or less the centerpiece of what we're doing now. And I see there's some really good presentations that you have, and including Beyond Prod as well. But we had a lot of enterprises come to us and said, we get confused because the technology companies position zero trust as being a product. And we are, with this center, what we are doing is helping people understand zero trust is more of a philosophy about how you are able to protect assets with the least privilege access, based on this idea that anything can be breached. And so this philosophy should allow us to create the right strategies. So we've got a resource hub that's got a lot of the best practice documents. We have a training curriculum. We're just in the process of releasing our first module, the Zero Trust Architecture. And there's a lot of great research that's ongoing, and you can go join and you can participate. We have about 9 work streams that are aligned with the different pillars that are out there. And we have a terrific online summit, November 16th and 17th, and it's including a fireside chat that I'm going to be having with John Kindervag, the innovator who coined Zero Trust while at Forrester, and he is now a member of our executive steering committee at CSA for our Zero Trust Advancement Center. So we did a survey, and this was released at RSA, but just to recap, it's over 70% of organizations are making zero trust quite a big priority. And they articulated a few different areas, chief among it, protecting against zero-day threats, protecting the home users, data loss, things you would kind of expect. Something that was somewhat surprising, the CTO area within different organizations was actually the sponsor of this from a C-suite side, and the chief financial officer was second. And we had about 2,000 respondents to our survey from all around the world. And so we think it's pretty good data, but we're actually surprised that the Chief Information Security Officer was the third on the sponsor list. And also something that I think is kind of important to understand, wasn't surprising to me, and this has been validated by a lot of different groups and a lot of different conversations, is that the biggest inhibitor right now, the biggest single inhibitor to adopting zero trust appears to be the identity and access management. It could be organizations have legacy approaches to this. It's highly embedded into existing legacy applications. And so we have to figure out how to move past some of our maybe more brittle legacy identity and access management architectures. And then other things like, do we have very good virtualized network security? Do we have really good visibility on all of our data flows and our assets and things like that? Those end up becoming pretty important. And then at the end of the day, are the goals that organizations say they have, is that what zero trust can deliver? And we think so. We think that this is done better in a cloud native cloud format, and it's going to enable organizations and really force them to move to cloud more readily. It's also doing this right. We do find that it's going to simplify the user experience, where it's going to be seamless to them whether or not they are connecting to a VPN or something else. All of that is going to be obscured as you go to more of like next generation types of zero trust network access. So we think that this is actually something that is going to like really transform what we've talked about, digital transformation. Zero trust is going to allow us to do that. And the pandemic made all organizations virtual and conferences like this virtual. And really to have good security in those virtual environments means understanding zero trust as a philosophy, as a strategy, and not a specific technology. So I'd encourage you to go look at this survey. You can go find it at the links that I had previously, a couple slides back, and go dive into it. There's about 20 different findings that were in there. So another area to talk about is you're going to have a presentation later today more about STAR, but this is an area just to reiterate that our security, trust, and assurance program, which includes our cloud controls matrix, our questionnaire, our STAR registry, this is becoming widely adopted. It's probably our fastest growing product area, and it's the source of a lot of partnerships with different countries that are standardizing on this, different industries like financial services, the entertainment industry, several others. And so I definitely think it makes sense for you to pay attention if you are a cloud provider or you're a customer that's looking to vet in your procurement and your risk assessments, your onboarding. It's really important that you understand what we're doing here, because this is one of the best tools for being able to make sure that you are adopting secure cloud systems. We provide just a wealth of information of different cloud providers and how they've answered our questionnaire. So just to wrap up a little bit here, just a few other things that we are working on, and I'm sure there's a little bit of the rendering on this slide wasn't the greatest, but we are just in the process of announcing the Cloud Security Alliance Trusted Cloud Consultant Program. And this is for consulting firms that we are encouraging them to have essentially a Cloud Security Alliance practice, which means they have credentialed people, CCSK or CCAK, that they volunteer inside and participate in our research, and they have competencies that we've had some level of vetting. And we think it's really important with CSA as an organization that does best practices that we have really good partners out there that can actually help organizations implement. We have a financial services initiative that we're going to be announcing shortly, and we're going to be having a virtual global financial services summit in the mid-February timeframe. So we hired a gentleman named Troy Leach, who worked as an executive at the PCI, Security Standards Council. and he is developing our financial services plan. He basically developed the PCI standard. We're very excited about this. We are going to have an annual report, the state of cloud and financial services. And I know that Hong Kong is a financial services hotbed, so we encourage you to follow our site. We're going to have more information about that shortly. And we're just going to continue on with all of our research in, for example, our CXO area, which is pretty new, providing education for CISOs, and whatever you as a community would like to see in terms of research. So I'm just leaving a slide behind that also has more of the popular links that I may have missed for other areas for more research for you to read up on. And I'm just, again, very honored and pleased to have been able to spend a little bit of time with you. You've got my email address there, so I look forward to hearing from you, and I encourage you to reach out with any questions, concerns, or feedback you might have. So with that, I will back to Claudius.
Good. Thank you, Jim.